New year, same extra value meals at McDonald's. So now get 2 snack wraps, plus fries, and a medium soft drink for just $8.
For limited time only. Prices and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Hawaii, Alaska, and California, and for delivery.
Well, the holidays have come and gone once again. But if you've forgotten to get that special someone in your life a gift, well, Mint Mobile is extending their holiday offer of half off unlimited wireless. So here's the idea. You get it now. You call it an early present for next year. What do you have to lose? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Limited time 50% off regular price for new customers. Upfront payment required. $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan. Taxes and fees extra. Speeds may slow after 50 gigabytes per month when network is busy. See terms.
Welcome to No Question About That. We're reviewing Burnley 2, Manchester United 2 with Wayne. It's been a busy week, Wayne. How are you coping?
I'm all right. I don't like change at United. I've talked about this many times. But usually makes me feel a lot more sad than this time. I don't know if I was a little bit more numb to it this time. Or like I said on the last pod that we did, that maybe I wasn't ever fully convinced it was the right man from the start. So maybe I anticipated there'd be change a lot more quickly than I usually do. I usually sort of deny it. So it's not been that bad, but it has been a lot. There's been a lot of news going around. United are always the sort of biggest news story anyway. But yeah, I think, it was funny because when we did the last pod and we were talking about what comes next, and I said the most stupid thing I could have said.
Wow.
Before I said stupidest, the most stupid thing I could have said, which was, it feels fairly universal that United fans are quite tranquil at the moment. And then Ole Gunnar Solskjær gets named as the favourite, and everyone has lost their collective minds. And we are right back to where we were in the winter of 2021. Like, no time has passed whatsoever.
Culture War just picked up straight away. There was just just take your tweet from 2021 and just repaste it into amazing stuff. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Yeah, it's amazing. It's for such a nice, calm guy. He seems to be extremely polarizing. No one is suggesting he's getting a 6-year contract. Well, yet. Anyway, Give him time. Anyway, look, he wasn't anywhere near Burnley tonight. I don't think, although he is in the area, of course. It was Darren Fletcher in charge, put one of his sons on the bench. Didn't give him any minutes. That's going to be an awkward conversation in the Fletcher household tonight, isn't it? But United got a 2-2 draw. It should have been much more than this. This was not particularly bad performance, was it? 30 shots, 10 on target, 7 alone from Benjamin Sesko, who Gary Neville spent most of the game trying to convince us all is the worst striker who's ever pulled on a shirt. Very odd from Gary. But a couple of good goals, very unlucky one conceded. Probably should have had a third as well. I don't know. The Martinez-Walker thing was very, very soft, wasn't it? So what's your overall impression of the team, the performance, how we've come out of it?
My very first observation is going to be just a Neville point. I don't usually comment on Neville, or even, I don't think I comment on the Class of 92 commentary on the players or the team or the club. But it is fairly unusual. How best to put this? Carragher is in the top 5 appearance makers of Liverpool history, and Neville is in the top 5 appearances in United history. Very curious thing to have two of those in such a prominent media position, where normally you wouldn't say that it matters, because we all remember the prominent Liverpool pundits of the 70s and 80s and 90s even, and how much criticism they would give United players. That's fine, it was part of the course. But you are right, it is a funny old thing. And I do think sometimes it's worth remembering that they're human. Right, and I know we're not talking about the game yet. It's just you mentioned Neville, and I just thought it's just a very interesting thing because yesterday when Scholes and Butt were on there, they must record their podcasts 2 or 3 days a week, and they got pulled in to do the recording on the day of the sacking, and they put out a lot of content on that day. And one of the quotes or quips that was made was that they wouldn't mind seeing Steve Bruce back in the dugout alongside Darren Fletcher. I know you're probably going to laugh at that. I'm not, and I'm going to tell you why. Not only because I think Steve Bruce is a thoroughly decent bloke who I really hate the way that the media treat him, but I think he's a really nice guy. But they've just had him on their podcast, so I understand why they would sort of talk him up a little bit. And I think that's the human aspect of the fact that he was a legend in the side that they sort of succeeded. So there's an element of that as well. So I think you have to take those kind of comments with a grain of salt. So you don't take it too seriously. Or if you are going to take it seriously, understand the perspective in which it was given. So then you are understanding that they're human and they're not speaking as football experts they're just humans who support United, who are giving their opinion based on the fact that they were in a dressing room with that man. Neville's a different kettle of fish because he's on running commentary for Sky Sports and the biggest media outlet and everything like that. And it does have some sway in the narrative. And he does get a little bit too critical. And I think we all understood why at first, why he was doing that in the first few years. I don't think I was particularly critical of the fact that he was doing that. But there does come a point where it goes a little bit too far. And it did a little bit too much, go too much today with Sesko, but he played very well in the second half and scored 2 goals. So the answer's there, and should have had a hat-trick as well. Look, it's what Fletcher said. This is the thing about, and I've talked about this before, with the demands of a United manager when they're facing the media, and why it's important. Not important, it's a benefit if they've got some experience of the club, like Solskjær did, or like Fletcher does. He was able to bat that question away about the class of 92. Yeah. Very respectfully and in the best possible way. So, and what he was saying is those guys have won medals. They're entitled to an opinion, and it's the responsibility of the players that we've got to stand up to it. And if we're using tonight as an example of how to do that, then Sesko did it. He wouldn't have known what was saying on commentaries.
Yeah, fair enough.
But he was brilliant in the second half. And I thought he should have had a hat-trick. I think there's a great thing about Sesko, and I'll start talking about the football itself. There's a great thing about him that you look like him, and it looks like he's got a trip hammer in his foot, but he doesn't. He's so velvet. You see him and you think he's gonna lash this one. Even the second goal that he scored was so beautifully taken. But he had a couple of chances where he just couldn't get the ball out of his feet, and he just struck it too well. And that's the cliche that they use. But there's no. Like, you want to see violence, or you want to see look like he hates the ball, a bit like Haaland does sometimes, or a bit like Van Persie used to do. He just doesn't do it yet, so we don't see him do it enough. But 2 good goals tonight, and they're the reason why we're talking about a decent result, a decent performance, rather than a poor performance and a poor result.
Yeah, no, all fair enough. Yeah, look, I've said before that I think I've got some faith in Sesko's ceiling. There's some untidy bits to his game that have to improve. It's hard to say at 22 whether they all will improve or not, right? So one of it's his aggression. He's a big bastard. He's physical and he's quick, and he doesn't use it enough. That can be coached. Just be more aggressive. I mean, if you look at the summer options, Victor Gyökeres decided to go to Arsenal. He uses his body really well. He's not very efficient in the box, honestly, and I think he'll forever struggle to translate Portuguese football to English football as a result. Could be totally wrong about that and look like a tit later, but who cares? Benjamin Sesko, I think he has to just adapt his game just a little bit in order to get the most out of it in England. I kind of feel like the raw ingredients are there. I suppose in the early days, I probably said the same about Rasmus Højlund, but he just forgot to be a striker, and at least Sesko does some of those important things. He does bend his runs very well. He gets into good positions. Part of the reason why he's missed so many big chances this season is he's getting into the right positions to take those chances. We'd like him to be more efficient with his finishing, which was a bit erratic at RB Leipzig as well. And the reason why United bought him and not someone experienced that Ruben Amorim apparently wanted was because they saw the ceiling, right? And we've seen some of that tonight, And the only reason I mentioned Neville up front is it's kind of, I guess it's a kind of constant bit of frustration that United don't have any boosters in the media. And so the narrative is set in a very negative way all of the time, right? And that does translate through to the fan base. And is there any difference, right? He's a club legend, Gary Neville, and he always will be because he's made so many appearances and won so much stuff. And he was a very good player anyway, but his grit and effort and graft and all of that made him an outstanding player for United for more than a decade and for England. Right? An absolute example to every professional footballer about how to behave, how to live, and so on. Right? No denigration of any of that. But honestly, I think he's a crap pundit. And it's not because he doesn't know the game. It's because he's so clouded by the narrative he wants to create. And I just don't see the difference between him and like Mark Goldbridge, honestly. Like Goldbridge is a fake fan who's faking content for likes. Neville is not a fake fan, but he's turned himself into something else to get social media content out there. It feels like it anyway. Now, maybe he's not as conscious about it as that, or maybe he is, who knows, but that kind of is where it comes. And I just wish he doesn't have to be a booster in Manchester United. He doesn't have to be rah, rah, rah United like Rio or someone like that. He doesn't have to be that, but he swung so far the other way and he can't get himself out of it. There's just no need to shit on him the whole fucking game, which is what he did. Anyway, that's just a piece of frustration. It shouldn't be the whole narrative for this podcast. And, sorry I started like that because actually the story of this was Darren Fletcher, his first game as Manchester United manager, maybe his only game, who knows? Or maybe the first of 400. Who knows these days? Could be, He set the team up in a 4-2-3-1 and there were a couple of interesting players back, Bruno Fernandes back in the side, Kobbie Mainoo back on the bench. A few people on social media going, yeah, so see, I told you, it wasn't an injury at all. It was all about the brothers' t-shirt. I don't know if I buy into conspiracy theories like that. But and United, not great in the first half, but not terrible. Could have done with a bit more intensity. And then second half really pushed for it, and technically they got some things wrong. There was a horrible second goal to concede. It wasn't a brilliant first one either. Casemiro just didn't track his runner at all. But they went for it, and 30 shots tell you that they did. 5 big chances, 10 on target, 7 from Sesko. On another day, this would have been a different result, and we'd have had a very different mood around things because it wasn't terrible.
No.
With the caveat that Burnley are shit.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say this and boring everyone with the fact that I think they're a poor team in a poor league as well. But so there's that to take into strong consideration, by the way. Let's not just dismiss that a bit. So it was nice to watch at times, but how nice could it have been considering the fact that Burnley scored 2 fairly comfortable goals against us? On comms here in England, I don't know if you got the same over there.
No, I listened to the English one this time.
Yeah. So you had Neville on comms. So they were fairly critical of Heaven throughout the first half. They were saying, especially when he missed a header in the second, they were saying, oh, that could have been redemption. I don't think he needed redemption. I thought he played very well. I thought we've talked before about him carrying the ball and the decisions that he makes in those moments. I think there's a lot to be said about the fact that he's played from the left. I'm not sure if I attribute the own goal to that tonight. I thought that he played well. Look, you look at this United team, and let's take stock of where we are, right? So Lomans is going to be goalkeeper for the future. Dalot is on his 7th manager, someone said, which is incredible, including caretakers. I think that is it, which is just mental. But you would say he's not good enough. Like, if we're being serious about where we want to be.
Yeah, he's not good enough for the standard we want to be at.
And this is going to be a very quick run through, not my usual deep dive into it. So Dalot, not good enough. Heaven, definitely loads of potential in there. Martinez, we've gone back and forth on. We're not really sure, but he's played well since he came back in. Shaw, not good enough, although he's played all right this season. Not good enough where he said we're going to build a title-winning team around. these players. He's just not good enough. So that's 2 out of the 5 that we've mentioned so far. Casemiro won't be. No problem with him tonight. I know he switched off for the goal.
Well, he's exposed in this system. Honestly, he doesn't have the 3 behind him.
No, and it's weird sometimes where they look at where they're going to sit in the 3, because this was one where they were like, you could see that there was a bit of an issue where they were, who was playing in that 3 and what positions they were playing in, because Ugarte was often very advanced, and you would consider normally in a 3 with this kind of playing squad, you would have Ugarte sitting and Casemiro and another player in front.
Casemiro doesn't have the mobility. That's the problem. They're always going to make a compromise now. So,
but what we had with that is Ugarte and Casemiro looking like a 2 instead of 1 sitting behind the other, and I think that created a few issues in terms of position. However, having said that, people who have listened to me on various podcasts, especially this one all season, will know how critical I've been of Manuel Ugarte. I thought he was very good tonight, and I think this kind of system... Well, I thought he was good. Let's not say very good.
I had that dream again. My small business needs to hire, but I don't use LinkedIn, and I hire wrong. So then I'm doing IT, and when I go to plug the servers in, they become sentient, and they won't let us access our network unless we forward their chain emails and memes to more and more and more people, and then I wake up.
Don't let hiring nightmares ruin your dreams. LinkedIn Jobs' new AI assistant finds and invites best fit candidates to apply, so you can discover talent you may have missed. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/quality. Start hiring today with LinkedIn.
Kraft Mac and Cheese is better than 90s hip-hop. We'll remind you of your childhood without making you feel incredibly old. Kraft Mac and Cheese. Best thing ever.
Bruno Fernandes, number 10, very good. Great assist for the goal. Dogu, I thought, was good.
All right. I mean, brilliant cross for Sesko's second. I mean, stunning, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. And Cunha, not very good.
No, one of his quieter games, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I say that as his biggest fan. But apart from the, I'm just making a point about the nature of the squad that we've got really. So we've got 4 or 5 players. Dogu probably would have been a title-winning squad, but maybe in the squad, not in the first team, unless he has a massive upwards trajectory. Bruno, still not quite sure of, not because of his quality, nothing to do with his quality, but because of his age at this point in Project 2028 and all that sort of stuff. So many moving pieces of where we still want to go and how much transition still needs to take place. That's the stuff that we need to take a hold of tonight, just based on this team that played tonight rather than the players are out as well. And I still felt like we should have done more. I felt like we should have won the game, but Lacey came on. But the shot that he hit, that was just absolutely incredible. The first one I'm talking about that hit the bar.
Yeah.
Now, if he scores that, we are having a very different conversation about the game entirely. So all we're talking about for an hour would be Lacey with that goal. Yeah. So I'm going to say, even though we drew against Burnley, and they're a very poor team, I'm going to say that I feel really positive about it. I don't think that 6 inches should be the thing that detracts us from what we should be talking about.
I wonder where you go with that.
Yeah, I wondered when I started talking about it. But considering the ambition of the effort and the ambition of, because we've criticised Amorim for not bringing on Lacey and for not giving him a chance and for not going to win games, Fletcher did that. And what he did was he looked at this team, he said, this is a team that's going to play in square pegs in square holes.
Mostly, yeah.
And I'm going to ask them to attack and win the game. I'm not going to make nonsense substitutions. I'm going to make all the substitutions to try and benefit. Mostly, again, you said Bruno coming off and Cunha coming off. Cunha more so you'd question because Bruno needed to, he's obviously a bit knackered.
Bruno couldn't take a risk with, yeah. I mean, I think, in terms of the team setup, it was pretty balanced. Like Fletcher can't do anything about Casemiro's lack of mobility or the fact that he cannot play 3 games in a week, and I think we saw some tiredness with him not tracking his runner on that first goal for sure, or that Martinez is still feeling his way into the game, should have been tighter, shouldn't have got turned for the second goal. Right, those are just individual moments. he picked Dorgu and Cunha as the wide players. Actually, Cunha started from the right, not the left, and Dorgu on the left. I guess that created a little bit more balance. Cunha's an interesting one where he fits into a system that is not designed for Ruben Amorim because he was the purchase to fit into that inside 10. We'll see whoever comes in. Ole would probably want a slightly wider player if it's him. But, Cunha's multifaceted and they'll find a spot for him because of his talent. Dorgu was up there because he's fit and there's no real other options. Mount is just back, right? And I do think Sesko really benefits. We saw at the weekend, didn't we, against Leeds, just how much he benefits when there's someone near him and he's not isolated. I mean, he suddenly changed into a completely different player when Josh Zirkzee came on because he's got someone close to him he can run off, right? And so that'll be an interesting conversation for whoever is in charge on Sunday. We've no idea. Is it Fletcher? Is it Carrick? Is it Ole? Is it Steve Bruce? Surprise. Probably not, but you never know. Let's bring Mark Hughes and Brian Robson out of retirement as well and get the whole gang back together. So there are some questions, and there's nothing anyone's going to be able to do about that this season. Although, question for Jason Wilcox and the board, if there is any money, if they're willing to spend, if there is a player they always wanted, this appears to be the strategy. If you're going to switch to a 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1 or something like that, you need another midfielder. Almost certainly. It needed one anyway. But it would, if you're going to move Bruno out of there, who's been brilliant at 8, he's even better at 10, then you definitely need another midfielder. Although the likelihood is that once we got over this Christmas period, Casemiro is going to go back to 1 game a week, and that will help him anyway. So there's lots of moving parts, questions to be answered for whether it's Fletcher or Ole or whoever, and how to get the best out of them. But we're soon going to get one player back from AFCON in the next couple of days because Mazraoui and Mbeumo are playing each other, right? We'll see some very tough quarterfinal lineup at AFCON, so we might see the rest of them back soon. Who knows? Bruno, Mount, Mainu all back tonight. It could be aligning. Touch wood, don't jinx it, Ed, for as strong as possible. Harry Maguire back as well. Stronger possible squad as possible with enough players in each position that you can get a balanced team out of it. And in this league with so many teams that are taking points off each other, who have flaws, we may have dropped down a couple of places tonight, but it's still only 2 points off the Champions League spots, right? And they're occupied. Newcastle are above us. We know they're not very good. Brentford are above us. That's a shock, right? It's so tight that teams are moving around by the week. The prize is still there, even though we've dropped points against Everton and West Ham and Burnley and so on, and Wolves and so on and so on and so on. These are games that we should have taken points at because it's Arsenal and City up next. But, there you go. It's still, the opportunity is still there.
Yeah. And, United being United could well take a good number of points from Arsenal and City, especially if they've got the bounce from a new manager. And let's not discount, if it's Ole, for all of the criticisms that are valid. The one thing that should be ringing true in people's minds is that he had a good record tactically in big games, especially when he first came in. When he inherited what he had from Mourinho, he got a really good run of results in big games. Look, that's speculation for the future. Looking on tonight, I thought Fletcher did as well as could have been asked within a game. It's on the players to win a game against Burnley, who were really poor, and they created enough chances. Really, there is something to be said. You mentioned there about the players coming back, and your brain is a funny thing. If you're speaking in the Ruben Amorim era, you are taking in account of all these players who are coming back in whatever shape or form. But your brain is associating it with the formation, so it doesn't really matter what happens because you are associating it with, this is the way that we're going to play. These are the players who are likely to play. This is the way that the team is going to set up. But with a 4-man defence and whatever kind of shape in front of him, I know a lot of people are expressing concern about Ahmad and Mbeumo, but I think that's a good problem to have. They can both play in a team. And it's got to be a good problem that two quality players are fighting for a position. So I don't necessarily have a concern about that. In fact, it makes me feel so much more optimistic. And I do want to say that I would feel optimistic about that if Amorim was the manager as well and he just decided I'm going to stick with the 4-man defence, because I don't think there's that much of a pronounced difference in there. And I don't think there was that much tonight, because when United did play with a 4 in recent weeks, they did create a lot of chances. We shouldn't be surprised that they created a lot of chances tonight. So maybe they wouldn't have played as free as they did tonight under Fletcher, because I think I saw... And this is a funny thing to the layman, you and I, watching a game of football, and you watch them and say, sometimes you can see a player who is playing within the limits of his capacity because he's been told to do certain things, and you can see a bit of a liberation of them. We certainly saw it in the latter weeks under Mourinho or times under Van Gaal, and then what we saw under Solskjær. We saw a massive pronounced difference. And I think you saw something like that tonight, players taking chances that they wouldn't normally play, players expressing themselves in roles that they wouldn't normally do and moving. Agate, like I said, just seemed like a completely different kind of player. So those kind of things were hugely promising, and you can't really attribute the results to Fletcher for that. And really, when you've seen a managerial change in the middle of a season, there's something about those first couple of games that comes after that change where you almost, it's like a suspension of disbelief where you go like, all right, it doesn't really matter that you're playing a team that were in the bottom 3. It should matter, and it does in the grander scheme of where United are going to finish in the table, and if they can be seriously taken as Champions League contenders, which I still think that they can because the league's so poor. But you still, like you said, we're talking, you introduced the point as like, this is a good performance. Whereas if the managerial change hadn't happened...
Yeah, might have been slagging us off. Yeah, sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I
don't know whether it's a crass analogy, but it feels like, when I was younger and dating girls and, didn't really fancy it continuing, the sense of relief you get afterwards, even if you weren't quite sure that that's what you needed,
Yeah.
It's a bit like that, because I didn't hate Ruben at all. I pretty much hated Erik ten Hag by the end of his time. You did. Can stand the man. Yeah. Can stand the man. And maybe that's personality. Personality goes a long way. I don't quite have that feeling that I was desperate to get him out. Yeah, it was clearly going wrong, and he was clearly desperate to get out because he burned all his bridges on the way out of Old Trafford, didn't he? So it wasn't exactly that, but that sense of relief or hope, whatever it is, two sides of the same coin in one sense, aren't they? Comes with the new manager, and I guess we're just like in a little holding pattern to see who the next one is.
I'm with you. Sometimes it's like when that relief comes, it's like, I didn't really like the way that it was going. Do you know what I mean? You need that to say like, actually, I was subconsciously not liking the way that was heading, and I didn't really want to talk about it. But the relief of the familiarity as well, because there is something, and I know it's nostalgic, and I know maybe we allow ourselves to indulge in the nostalgia of a Darren Fletcher interim appointment because we think it's only temporary. So we go, for a minute, this is all right because it makes us feel good. And you do abandon the idea, we're playing Burnley and this is a really poor Premier League. Because I think when you've had a poor run of results and poor run of performances, the primary thing you want as a football fan is to enjoy what you're watching. And I think we did tonight. You discount the goals that we conceded. You go, all right, there are problems to be worked on. But you enjoyed watching the way that we played. You enjoyed the fact that Sesko had so many chances. There was a great save from Dubravka in the first half.
Yeah.
His movement looked a lot better. Dogu looked like he was getting in better positions. You thought, Bruno in 10 is just a joy to watch. And you start thinking all of these things are starting to feel that the way they should play. They should feel, especially Garte, and I'm going to keep giving him praise. And then especially then when Lacey comes on and does what he does. So the second shot as well. I think the first shot, because you think that is astounding, and it looked like it was in, and it was so disappointing. It wasn't disappointing, it was thrilling. But then he had the balls to take it on again, and it wasn't as close the second time round, I know, but it was like That was good. The second one was like, and some people would say that's too greedy. And Neville on comms had a go at Mainu, and I think that was a little bit unfair.
It's a long way out for Mainu to have a shot.
He was, and he shouldn't have done it. But there was still 6 or 7 minutes left. And how many times have we seen Ugarte in that position do exactly the same kind of thing? There was still enough time, and Lacey showed there was enough time to have those chances. And the second one as well, I just thought that the first one was more thrilling, obviously, but the ball's on him to go like, no, I'll have another go at this, and to get the crowd off their feet to think, oh my God, this could happen.
He's scored plenty of goals at under 18s level that look exactly the same.
Exactly,
as well. Yeah, I don't mind players having a shot from 30 yards if it's 18 of them and they're all very unlikely. Then if it's the model, right, that's no good. And of course, Mainu should have sustained the attack there. That would have been the smarter thing to do. But we're not seriously saying that no one should ever shoot from 25 yards out, are we? We're not actually saying that we're going full Pep ball. And if you shoot from further out than 6 yards, you get a fine.
And this was an emotional game, right? Yeah. It was because it was the first game after a manager's dismissed, and Mainu was getting his first chance after. He wants to prove that he's good enough. He's got something to prove. And I thought he played well on the ball. I thought he played well on the ball when he came on. That shot aside, but I don't begrudge him that. But it's Lacey that won. We've been talking about him for probably a year, really. Mm-hmm. When we were talking about him a year ago, he had an injury, and I was saying, in this system, because Anthony had been bombed out, and there was talk about what we were going to do on the right hand side, and Ahmad was the obvious choice. The question mark, because of what happened with Fernandez on the other side, the left back who went to Real Madrid. Mm-hmm. The question mark was physical capacity to deal with the Premier League. So there was always that concern about Lacey. And there still is. That's still a valid concern. But the big thing that I felt was evident from what we did see of him in the reserves and the under-18s and the under-23s. No, the under-23s and reserves are the same thing these days. What we did see is that on the ball, admittedly at that level with his peers, was a more direct way of doing the things that Anthony did them, and a less predictable way.
Yeah.
And a less easy way to defend against. Mm-hmm. So if he could do that and navigate this journey through the physicality, then it was a risk worth taking. Unfortunately, we weren't able to see that for whatever reason last season, whether or not it was injuries or lack of faith to give him that call-up, and I can understand why. But the most exciting thing that you'll ever see at Manchester United is the breakthrough of a young player who does something like what he did tonight. And it's not so much in the fact that he didn't score, so I'm not that worried about that. It's the boldness of taking the second shot in particular, after having missed the first one, so I have the courage to go like, no, I'm still going to try and win the game for us. I'm like, come on, just give him more of a chance. Play him against Brighton, play him from the start if you need to. He probably won't, because Bruno will be in that 10 and you've got to put Cunha somewhere, and I wouldn't disagree with that, but I'm so excited by what I saw from him that there are a lot of things to be excited about on the back of what we saw tonight. As much as we say, it was disappointing, as much as I'm saying that, there's still a lot to be excited about.
Lacey's dynamic and exciting and young, and like everything that Manchester United is about and that we're excited about, and gets you off your feet. You'd have heard me from 5,000 miles away if that had gone in the top corner. Just would have freaked out the local animal population, running down the street. It was an awesome moment, and you just wish it had gone in, just because we'd been talking about that for years. It'd have been a Wayne Rooney moment, wouldn't it? Like, who knows what life will bring for him? He's obviously extraordinarily talented. Anyone who's seen him in the under-18s and 21s know that. There's no doubt about that. He's had a lot of injuries as he's been growing, and it's taken a year away from him in many ways, I think, because he's had so many of them. So just like one step at a time. Don't need to overhype him. Doesn't need to be any pressure. Like, give him a few moments. I thought Ruben could have given him a bit more game time, especially AFCON coming up, and he just didn't. and that was disappointing. Not that you would necessarily advocate for him being thrown straight in there, as a direct replacement, because you'd be asking a kid to do a man's job, and that would be unfair, but just to warm him up a little bit, and that was a missed opportunity. But we've come to this moment. He's come off the bench tonight. He's had a couple of great moments. Not quite happened for him, but, the world has now woken up to Shea Lacey, those who didn't know of him, for sure, and the talent that he's got. And now he's going to be an asset for the rest of the season. He might not play loads of games, but if we need another forward when we're chasing a game, there's an option.
The thing that I really like about him, Ed, and showing my age, and you'll be showing yours, because I know you'll nod in agreement with this, is, can you remember in the 90s, you would see clips of Giggs when he played when he was younger?
Yeah.
In the green kit at Anfield, you'd see him like running past players, and then you'd see clips of Michael Owen, and then you see clips of Wayne Rooney, and the three that I can think of that you would always see a lot of clips of them, especially when they were younger. They'd be the clips that you'd always see. You'd see Owen playing for the England under-16s or something at Wembley, and you'd look at him and you think, good grief, these are frightening players. Lacey's, he was only a cameo, but it reminded me of that. And I think the best thing that you can have in football, apart from winning trophies and entertaining football, which is obviously given, it's that feeling of like, this is off the playground, this is off the school ground, and he's doing something of his own invention, which isn't sort of borne down, it's not weighed down by the weight of like tactical instruction or, weary press criticism and all this sort of stuff, or even, overhyped sensationalism. These are the very earliest signs of seeing him. And we've seen him play in the academy and do all these kind of things. But when you see him break through to a senior side and do the same kind of things and do it in a way that's like, I'm trying to think of the players that make me think of this in the best kind of way. There's certain players who come into a team. You're going to bear in mind, and this is going to feel like I'm meandering way away from a point, but I'm really not. A team
Who'd have thunk it, Wayne?
Yeah, it's not like me. A team of 11 footballers, right? So 11 individual players are on a pitch, and they're all bound by tactical instruction or the passage of the game or the instruction of the opponent on what they're supposed to do. And every now and again, you get a player who comes into that team who almost not bypasses it, but makes the game about themselves. Like they put their own influence into the game in a way that only they can. And they're very... And well, there are a lot of talented footballers, of course there are in every single squad. And I'm not saying that they don't have the ability or capacity to do these kind of things, but there are very special players who come in.
Game needs it.
I'm very reluctant to put Lacey in this category, but what I'm saying is when you see someone come in and play like that, and he did it at Villa Park where he cut in from the right and he had this shot and he was a bit of a daisy cutter, but you thought, good on him for having a go. But tonight, 2 really good chances of his own making, and he was unstoppable. Now, the big issue is going to be in the next games when we see him play. They will have seen him do that now. Can they stop him doing it? If he can continue to do that in the way that Messi could do it, and I'm not comparing him to Messi, what I'm saying is Messi did it.
So you paired him to Giggs and Messi. What about George Best? He's a bit like Pele as well, isn't he? Or...
Yeah, no, what I mean is that the ability to do something where no one can stop you doing it. Yeah. Well, like Anthony could easily be stopped. And
mostly by himself, to be fair.
Yeah. Well, he gets tired from doing the fidget spinner thing. After a while, you get dizzy and fall down. But Mbeumo and Ahmad are really good at cutting in and doing that on the right. So United have got an abundance of this kind of player. So Lacey's, I guess he's going to be back in the queue there, but he's such a special talent. And it's a big if that talent surpasses that next step of that physical attention that he's about to get, he could be a massive jewel for United. And I am basing that off my excitement. I'm not going to hide my excitement. People know how excited I get over Kobbie Mainoo, so I'm going to get excited over Shea Lacey. And I have been for 2 years. If people have been listening and watching this pod,
totally fair enough. I remember me and Dan, wanking off over Kobbie Mainoo for 2 years as well. So it's like when they come through and they're good.
Yeah.
And of course, massive international focus on the first team. And there's plenty of people who are very focused on the under 21s and 18s because you can watch all the games, or you used to be able to before Sir Jim cut all the feeds and didn't pay the Alecki bill and all that. But there's fewer people, right? And so you get a moment like that and everyone will be like, Shea, who?
Yeah.
Wow. What did Ferguson say about Giggs? He's like a cocker spaniel chasing a piece of paper in the wind, and Lacey's not quite that, but he moves beautifully. It just seems so easy for him. And it'll be interesting, won't it? We got Boomer, Ahmad and Lacey all like to play in that position, so they can't all play. I mean, the other thing is, we're presuming Bruno will be fit for the rest of the season, but Ahmad can certainly play in central areas. Do we sometimes use Mbeumo up front? That'd be interesting. What's the balance between... And it hasn't happened this season. I always thought he'd be a more dangerous option through the centre. He played with Wissa centrally in a 4-4-2 at Brentford, often. A more dynamic option there than Cunha, likes to play in half spaces, so gets a bit lost when he's up front on his own. So we have lots of options. And if you think, if we assume we're going to play a 4-2-3-1 of some kind of system, right, like that there are 4 attacking players in there, Bruno is going to be one of them. And then there's lots of other options for the rest of those positions. I see it should, talk myself into being excited for the rest of the season here. And we know it's a flawed team and they're going to drop lots of points and it's going to be frustrating. And we just hope that in a league where everyone is dropping points and everyone is flawed beyond the top 2, basically, that we can reach our dreams, which, the prize, as I said, is there. Champions League is there, at least Europa. The club really, 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 really needs it for the status and the money and our development pathway, and possibly even to attract the next right permanent manager as well. Not that one season should determine whether a manager takes the job, but what they're going to get to play with as a budget will be very much determined by whether United in European competitions or not.
Yeah. A different playing field now to when they attracted Jose Mourinho to the role when we didn't have Champions League football, because then it was a case of one season in, one season out, and United had the wherewithal to buy players at the tune of £200 million, and I guess they do now, but massive risks attached to that. Look, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's like, you watch a game of football and you see, it can be just like you were talking earlier about. I remember having a conversation with you on the pod about 6 or 7 weeks ago, and maybe 8 weeks ago, when Sesko picked up a knock, and you were saying how worried you were about that role. Right. I just think it is. You just move one player around. It is football. This is football in a nutshell. You move one player from one position into another. And really, what we're talking about is an extra defender when we've been playing with 6 defenders. But from the start, playing with an extra defender. And it suddenly shifts your entire mindset of the positivity that you feel. Because now you're looking at that and you're thinking, theoretically, you've got all these different options. Cunha through the middle and Mbeumo through the middle. Sesko as well. This is before talking about Obi in an emergency. Bruno could do it in an emergency as well. Ahmad, we've not tried him. There are all these different areas that we've got different threats to play in. And then obviously we've got Lacey on top of that. And you'll have a manager, whether that's Carrick or Solskjaer, and it looks like being one of those at this point, that will want to give that attacking talent all the chance that it's got to flourish, because they'll understand they understand the demands of the club. And we've talked so much over this past year, you and I and everyone else, about what the demands of Manchester United are. And yes, it is nostalgic, and yes, it is a temporary thing, but I think it is and we've also talked about the wrong decisions. You said 3 bad decisions. You wrote a beautiful piece on. It's beautiful. You wrote a very nice piece on Substack about.
I'm not sure beautiful, sarcastic.
Exactly. I pulled back from that, and because you wrote a very good piece on talking about the 3 big mistakes that they made. I went further on the WhatsApp group and said 4 because of the staff that were brought in. But that's not a massive mistake. But it was their call they backed the manager, and within months, all those staff were gone. So they made a lot of calls that were wrong. But I think this is a big right one, and I think it'll be Ole. I'll be surprised if it isn't. But even if it's Carrick, I think just showing us with Fletcher, so one of the three, just a nostalgia kick can be transformational. And I'm not saying transformational, but this is the basket we put all our eggs in for forevermore. I don't mean that. I just mean temporarily right now, as it was in 2018 when we sacked Mourinho. You need the lift. And the lift that we've got now, and I'm saying this after a 2-2 draw with Burnley, which I would be hugely critical of if he was under the old manager. The shift that you get from one player in a position and one manager in the dugout based on their background can have a profound difference on the way that the season's aspirations are.
Look, of course, Manchester United is a feeling, right?
Yeah.
We talk about the DNA, heritage, the Manchester United way.
I want to interrupt you, Ed.
Go ahead.
I'm going to tell you why, because you said a line there. I'm not blowing smoke here. I've been very lucky, sit with many names who have sat at very distinguished tables at Manchester United history. One of those is Paul McGuinness, who delivered Youth Cup trophies for United, and very good youth coach. Should still be at the club because he's drenched in the history of the club. I'm only stopping this because he has a line, and he says it every time I'm in his company. He says, Manchester United is a feeling. And I completely 100% agree with that. And you just said it. I'm just saying that you've said something that even Paul McGuinness says. So congrats to you, Ed.
No, well, I mean, I work on these lines sometimes, not that one. Look, I was like, what's the most sarcastic and cutting way I can finish this piece? I wrote 2,800 words on Ineos fucking everything that they've touched since they joined the club. And I was like, fish rots from the head down. How can I like round that out? In comedy, they call it, you have the punchline and the tag, right?
Yeah.
You build up your joke, you come out with the punchline, and then you follow it with another one, which is the tag. I was like, I need to tag this line with something. So nqatpod.substack.com if you want the tag for that particular piece. But no, I think it's important because it's something I feel like people miss a lot in the online globalized world, right? And I kind of totally understand that. They just want to win. They want the biggest name. They want the smartest tactico coach and the biggest transfers and all of that kind of stuff. But there's just something about the reason Manchester United is the way it is. Yes, there's 1 billion fans and it's the biggest stadium in England and they've got all this money and the stuff, but it's the history and it's what it makes you feel when you watch them. And that is important. And that's kind of why right now, having an Ole or a Carrick or a Fletcher in charge of the team just makes sense, right? Because you bring Rangnick in, or the equivalent this time. Why is that going to be any better? Like, why are we going to get, like, if we're saying that the managerial market, if you want to outwork manager right now is, I don't know, Xavi or whoever, right? If that's not your man and you want to wait till the summer, what's wrong with a bit of vibes ball? Like, latching on to that. And someone who Neville said, I had to go at Neville earlier, but he said in one of his pods or Sky or whatever that he wanted someone who understood the club, and I don't know that you just necessarily have to have an ex-player to have that, but it's something. And and you look, did Ruben honestly get everything about Manchester United? I'm not sure, because when we were complaining about him not playing youth players, that's what we were talking about. Did he get it?
And also his age. And I mean, I'm definitely not ageist. Maybe experience might be the best way to phrase that, because I think he's 40, 41. United have been rubbish for 10 years. So for a quarter of his life, the Manchester United of what we know it is. And he's quarter of our lives as well, but we've lived and breathed it our entire lives and we know the history of the club. And he came into it cold. And I think this is just my opinion, and I'm basing it on the other managers that have come into the position as well. I think if you don't respect what United are, and it's a weird thing to explain unless you understand it. And I'm glad that we're on a podcast where people will understand what I'm talking about, because it's way too long to elaborate the point. But if you are there and you don't understand what it is, and United are a very, very peculiar institution for this, because I don't even think Liverpool are the only one that could come close in England. But I'm talking like Real Madrid and Barcelona or the other, maybe not even Barcelona, it may be only Real Madrid that have this kind of feeling about them where if you don't understand what you've walked into, the way that it can go wrong is so catastrophic for you. Not really the club, because the club, it can go badly in terms of the results while you're there, but once you're gone, there's a relief. And we can draw against Burnley and feel good in a bad Premier League. And that is a lot to do with the fact that he didn't get the club. And he knew they didn't get the club from the way that he often spoke, and he had so many chances to speak about it. I'm not saying that you have to come out at every press conference and say, Manchester United are the biggest club. You don't have to play 6 youth players in every single game. But you can tell when someone doesn't get where they are or what they're dealing with. And we've seen it with Jose Mourinho, and you would have thought he's got the wherewithal to deal with it. Louis van Gaal, in a weird way, did seem to get it, but he had the experience, but he still didn't get the football aspects of it. And all right, in the end, under Ole Gunnar Solskjær, it didn't work out. And that's why so many people have got valid reservations now. Mm-hmm. But on the caretaker aspect of understanding what the club is in order to invigorate the support again, who've been beleaguered for a couple of years of feeling that they were going to have hope and then not having it. And then you do want to watch football that you enjoy watching again. One of the most important things you can do, especially at Manchester United, given everything I've said, is do something that actually electrifies that connection. And this is the best way that they could do it. I don't think it's an intentional thing. I don't know if it's just because there's a shortage of names out there. No one who shouts themselves as an obvious successor to Amorim. But it's such a difficult thing to articulate when... And we could have done it every single week that we're on the pod, and we probably did in some form or another, where we say, no, there's just something he's just not getting right here, or there's something that's not working. And it is always under the umbrella of he's just not getting what Manchester United is about.
Yeah, and it's not just about nostalgia. I saw someone tweet, the reason why people want Ollie is the same reason Liverpool fans wanted Steven Gerrard. It's not just that, right? It's not. That really misses the point. But all right, look, we have got Brighton on Sunday. I think we should do a preview later in the week of that one, since we've been going on about this particular game for about 3 seconds and the general situation for about an hour. I guess by tomorrow or Friday, I bet it's soon though. Like, what's the point in hanging around? We'll get a really clear indication whether it's Carrick or Ollie or the dynamic duo.
Yeah,
both of them. Why not? Double trouble. Carrick's not going to give quite the same feeling, but he's an intelligent man and a good coach, even if it didn't work out at Middlesbrough. So either way, I don't think United will... It's not going to be a disaster.
The whispers are that Carrick is hopeful of a permanent position somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, you can understand that. Yeah. You can understand that, yeah. If I was him, I would not take West Ham United, though, which is the one he apparently has been interviewing at, because... there's no guarantee that after they've gone down that they will keep him, and he's really just like, warming up the place for running the championship.
They're very much a club who would hire someone and cite them in the summer, even though they're definitely going down. Yeah, no, whether it's Ole or Carrick or both of them, is wise to do it now, to pull the trigger on it now, even if it's Fletcher, to say that keep him in charge and make a statement on that, to say that he's going to be in charge for the rest of the season, rather than do it after the Brighton game and have City be the first game.
City and then Arsenal, that would be a hard way to start. Yeah, the Brighton game is very important, though. For the
I'm not
season.
saying that's any easier. It's a home game against a less.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The stakes are pretty big, but yes, it is not away at City and all of that. Everything that goes with playing City. All right, we'll leave it there. Wayne, thank you very much. As ever, listeners, you can catch us on YouTube if you're not there already. Patreon.com/NQATpod for the extra show. Given that we've done about 17 shows this week, we will, dearie me.
Time to sleep until Brighton.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll catch you soon. Bye now.